Welcome back, amazing business owners, creatives, photographers, artists, to another episode of Business Straight Up, the podcast for creatives that actually want to make a living doing what they love. Today's guest is a wealth of information when it comes to Facebook ads, and not just Facebook ads, but Instagram is now owned by Facebook as well. It's so interesting to me. I actually do these intros after we record the episode so that I know what we talked about, so that I can give you kind of a little taste so that you can see if it's a good fit for you. And I really wish that I had kept recording this episode after we were done with the actual interview, because Rita is a powerhouse. She is a brilliant businesswoman. And I wish that you guys could have heard our conversation. We were talking about money and how it works in business and how it's okay to want more money. It's okay to grow in your business and to really step into your power. So I'm so sorry that you guys did not get to hear that, but you do get to hear all about her strategies when it comes to measuring the metrics in your business that are most important and how we can harness the power of social advertising. So we are going to chat all about Facebook ads because, quite frankly, they scare me and they're a little overwhelming. And I think I probably have 4 courses on how to do them and they still scare me. So we're going to talk all about Facebook ads and the ways that we can implement Facebook ads into our businesses so that we can see the growth that we want to see. We're also going to chat about metrics. Like, what the heck are we measuring? What the heck are we looking for when it comes to growth? What does that even look like? Are we looking at traffic? Are we looking at clicks? Are we looking at views? What do we need to measure when it comes to really knowing if all of this effort that we're putting into things is actually working? Like, is it worth it? How do we know? So I am very excited to have the amazing Rita Berry as a guest today, and we're going to dive into social ads and metrics and all the things. As always, if you love this episode and you are someone that loves helping other people, head on over to iTunes, leave a review. And if you take a screenshot before you hit submit on the review, because as soon as you submit, they go off into like the World Wide Web and it takes quite a while for us to see them. But if you take a screenshot before you hit submit and send it on over to hello@businessstraightup.com, I have a freebie for you, a free gift. So take a screenshot, send it on over, and we are happy to hook you up with something awesome. Let's dive in and chat with Rita about all things metrics, measuring, and Facebook ads. Hey there, awesome people. I am Brooke Summer, and you are listening to Business Straight Up, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn, connect, grow, and build the business and life that they dream of. Welcome, let's get going and dive right in. Welcome back, amazing business owners. I am pumped to really get into today's episode because my amazing guest and I have something in common. We both know how freaking important website design, data collection, and marketing can be. We're even going to talk about something that makes me really nervous personally, which is Facebook advertising. So if any of you kind of just checked out when I said those things because they sound a little too nerdy, I really want to encourage you to please come back and check back in, because today's episode will be a wake-up call to some of the things that you may have been ignoring in your own business. Today's guest is Rita Berry of Rita Berry & Company. Thank you so much for being here, Rita.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty excited to make this as unboring as possible.
I know, right? It's so funny. I taught a website class a couple days ago and I kept asking, okay, guys, are you still with me? I know this is boring, but it's important.
Exactly. Where when people buy in though, and they're like, oh, and you kind of see the light, then that click has to happen. It's true. Up until that point where it all makes sense, it is profoundly boring.
Yes. And when I was showing, because I was showing kind of the back end of like WordPress and what you can do with it, people are like, this is blowing me away. And it's one of those things that it seems so boring, but once you get it and you realize how powerful it is.
It is. And it can kind of be creative and fun. Like once you get past that learning, that first learning bit where nothing works and everything is broken and frustrating. Yes. Then it's actually pretty exciting and creative for those people that really want to kind of dig into more of that fun stuff.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, it's so true. Well, there are so many things I want to ask you. I have a list of questions, but first let's start with a little bit of your story. Tell me a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today, and what really fires you up and makes you excited about what you do.
Awesome. Well, I started in web design. So I started doing that in 2009. So it's been like 11 years in the online space and kind of
you're an
owning my
oldie
own
like
thing.
me.
I am. I'm like dawn of the internet.
Yes.
Going 2009. I'm like, yeah, like that literally was 11 years ago. It seems
Isn't that crazy?
not that long ago.
Oh my gosh.
But when I think back about how things were done back in 2009, it does feel that long ago because things were a lot more challenging than they are now because the tech has come so far in the last decade. So that was the beginning. And it was really, I had been a social worker before that. So like really kind of outside of, like it wasn't a real straight line, and had gone to university for science and calculus and math and all manners of things. So I was always very number oriented. I loved stats, data, probabilities, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And social work was kind of a detour, right? Parents always love that. It's like, I'm going to be a doctor. No, I'm not. I'm going to be a social worker. There's really good money in that, right?
Of course.
But what I had found was that there was like the humanity was missing in the numbers.
Yes.
And even though that was a natural aptitude that I had, it felt really hollow as kind of a job and a career. And the part about social work that I loved so much was just all of the families and the relationship building and all of that was really missing from the other career that I thought that I wanted. And after doing that for 8 years, I left my job because of my husband getting kind of his dream job, and we ended up moving. So I naturally quit and just found web design because I was just bored. I had a 2-year-old I was staying at home with for the first time. And, and I'm not like a natural, like play on the floor, let's go out and play tag or Barbies kind of mom. That is not my jam. So I got bored without learning is what I found, like without having my own kind of pursuit. And so I did web design for a long time. But what I had found in doing the web design was that I didn't have a fine arts degree. I wasn't that person, right? And when I would look at other people's web design projects and, all that comparison we all do, oh my gosh, they're so much better than I will ever be, right? And it was just crushing. It went because I let it be crushing. And instead of kind of pursuing any kind of creative degree or extra education there, I realized that I just already had a natural aptitude for the stats and all the numbers and business math and all of that stuff started to present itself naturally through the course of that web design career. And my website started to become like not art projects for clients. They were business building, things, assets within that business. And I could prove it because I could back it up with, this is what your sales and conversion rate were before. This is what they are now. And that felt really good to me because it got rid of all that imposter complex that hangs out in our heads. And just naturally over time, things evolved where people just started coming to me and saying, I don't need the website design stuff. I need that other stuff. And so told me you do that. And then I was just listening to the clients and customers, and about, is it 3 or 4 years? Maybe it's 4 now, 4 or 5 years actually, that I've stopped doing websites entirely. And we've moved entirely to data analytics around marketing and Facebook ads. So it's been just as long doing this as we had been doing that.
Wow. So while you were talking, I was taking notes of like questions to go back to. I just want to kind of go back to what you had said about not being the sit on the floor kind of mom, because I'm not either. It drives me kind of crazy to just sit and play Barbies. And then I feel guilty about it, right? Because I'm like, I really should be doing this. But I wanted to kind of make the point of like, you looked at where your strength was and that it's okay to honor yourself, even when it comes to working with and serving other people, in this case, your child.
Exactly. And when I'd first quit and like I'd never been unemployed in my whole adult life. So at first, I have all those, the female friends, but a lot of us had young children at the time. And all I heard from everybody was like, this is so exciting. You get to be a stay-at-home mom. Like this was often like kind of the dream for other people, right? Mm-hmm. That other people were projecting on me. And I hadn't actually much thought about it because it had never occurred to me to be a stay-at-home mom because it had my career. I was just going to go back after maternity leave. This was just like, I didn't really entertain anything different. And when I actually got into it, like the first couple months were great. Like I had a lot of naps, right? That I had needed from 8 years in social work, let me tell you, caught up on some sleep. But after that, that just, oh, this is not fun. Like, I feel like my brain's going to mush. If I sing another song, I like don't even know what to do with myself. And then my husband was gone a lot because he was, new and kind of the rookie on the police force. So he was always away. And it was just me and my 2-year-old. And we were in a new place and I didn't have all my friends, like that immediate circle around you. So it was very isolating and a whole bunch of just really unpleasantness that everyone projected on me was supposed to be awesome. And it was not awesome at all.
Yes. And what's awesome for one person is another person's needles under their fingernails. And, and it's okay to accept that. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person. One person may run their business completely differently. One person may run their household. One person may parent. And I just love that you were okay with that. And you said, you know what, this is not my thing. And that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't make you a bad person. And you just move forward in the direction that serves you so that you can better serve your family too.
Completely. And it's just, and initially it felt like there was a lot of mom guilt for sure. Definitely sorted it out now, seeing my now 14-year-old daughter, who is a smart, charismatic, extroverted. I don't know where that came from, like a million different things about her, where we did something right. And she's an amazing human and we have a great relationship. And she will even be the first one to tell her friends, whereas like my mom doesn't do that. And it's not that that's a judgment. It's just like, she's letting you know that this is, her mom knows who her mom is and her mom certainly does not do that. So it's cool. We just respect the differences of each other. And it was a good lesson to learn because initially it was really hard at the beginning trying to figure that all out.
Yeah, that mom guilt can be real, man.
It's brutal.
And another note that I made, sorry. See, I love talking with people. And one of the things that I also love that you said is you started listening to your clients. Like, you started doing one thing and they told you they needed something else. And instead of being like, no, I don't do that, you kind of went down that rabbit hole and said, all right, I'll help you with this too. And again, just listening to other people and deciding what works best for you in conjunction with what works best for your clients.
Absolutely. Like, just being open to the fact that maybe I didn't know the best way to do something.
Yes.
That it was possible there was a better way. And the interesting thing, like how hard it was in the first 5 years to get the business going. I took the long, scenic route to building a successful business, by the way.
Yes.
Like the first 5 years, like getting to the first 100,000, I don't even know how many years that took me. But that was just struggle. Granted, and there was a toddler too, so there was less time involved, but it took forever. And everything felt so hard. And what I've seen now, countless times over is the more specific you get, the more known you get for something, because it's kind of your thing and you understand how to message specifically and you don't start randomly talking about things that have nothing to do with your business, right? Like, you bore yourself with how much you talk about the same thing. Yes. All of a sudden, everything becomes easier. And website design as a blob, right, isn't very remarkable. But
no,
when
it's kind of boring.
It is and it's like a dime a dozen. It's really hard to price well with that because what makes you special, right? Like, there's all of these questions that kind of come up around positioning and value propositions and things. But once the metrics came in, the being able to measure people's marketing as we do is our unicorn skill. And it is so completely rare. It's rare for women, right? That's another, we only serve female entrepreneurs. And a lot of female entrepreneurs get talked down to by, I had one client, my favorite phrase that she ever said is, she goes, I'm tired of being talked down to by teenagers in their mom's basements.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And she's like a she was 8-figure, not multi-7-figure. She has an 8-figure business and she was trying to get help with metric support. And that's who she was running into. And she's like, I have no time for any of this, right? The woman's in her 50s, she's over it, right? Wow. And that's a lot of what was out there 5 years ago and probably still is now. I just don't see it as much. So it was a lot of listening and then getting really specific and making those scary decisions around, okay, we're not doing web design anymore. What does this mean? Yes. It actually meant that the business exploded and we can't even control how much, we can't take clients, right? It's just we're full, wait lists, all that kind of stuff. Wow. And at the time it seemed impossible to let go of that other piece. But had I not let go of it, none of this other stuff would have been possible.
Yes. Someone told me once that you have 2 hands, and when you're holding on to something with both hands, you don't have a hand free to grasp the awesome things that are coming to you.
Exactly.
And that really struck me. I think of that all the time. I absolutely love that. So we are definitely going to get into Facebook ads because they terrify me and I'm really bothered by the entire thing for lots of reasons. And I know they're overwhelming for my students too. But first, I wanted to talk about why you started looking at Facebook ads, because you said you started looking at metrics because of imposter syndrome. So can you expand a little more on that?
Well, the Facebook ads came from when we started doing the measurement for people and we started seeing either their funnels were working. And by funnel, I don't mean like dude bro funnel. I mean like marketing, entire marketing campaigns of a business. When we started looking and measuring everybody's marketing and things, we started to see that either the funnels were working really, really well. Like their business was converting people to customers very nicely. They just needed a lot more traffic in the top. And the same thing that no matter where you are in your business, time is an issue.
Yes.
Right. So what Facebook ads do for a business that's working is they really can take a huge load off that content creation, the list building, all of that stuff that needs to get done that lots of people, when they don't have a lot of money and they're bootstrapping things, are doing themselves, right? As far as just hustling on social, and it automates a lot of that for a working business. And so it was an easy way, not easy, I'll put that in finger quotes for everybody. It's a way to kind of automate that process. So that was part of it, just like identifying the need and seeing that that was an issue that Facebook ads could solve for a lot of our clients when we were doing the measurement. But the other side was that when we started measuring businesses that were larger, like a lot of those high 6, 7, 8-figure businesses, they've already, Facebook ads are already part of the mix. And when you do a big build out with marketing measurement and you can see how everything is working, we started finding a lot of unpleasantness, as one can imagine, in that space around ads that were being run, honestly, like reports that weren't even accurate. Like they were like, what do you mean? These are the leads and sales I'm getting. I'm like, actually, no, like that's actually not what we're seeing. So it also became part of like, I think we can do this better because Facebook ads, and often this is, one of those reasons that people get into it, like they put their toe in and then they realize that, holy mackerel, how do you even do this? It's so multidisciplinary. And that's something that often gets missed in the Facebook ads or a quick way to get leads conversation that often happens online, because you have graphic design, video design, and video editing, copywriting, which copywriting for ads and like direct response copywriting, as it's often referred to, is a very different animal than flowery copywriting, right?
Yes.
And so direct response copywriting, you've got the whole technical build out of that. You've got funnel design, conversion rate optimization. All of these skills go together to run successful Facebook ad campaigns. And that's not usually part of the conversation. So it can get really scary for people when they're like, this isn't working, I don't know where to start, because you technically need like 10 professionals to be able to do it really well. So it was just, we had seen a need. And because of the background that I'd had in design, in, all the funnels, building the websites, it was just a really natural next step. And I just hated seeing clients who we cared like a great deal about just kind of floundering and having really bad experiences, bad customer service experiences, bad return on their investment. And it just became it really did. It felt like a natural next step to do that. So that's been 4 or 5 years now that we've been focusing on that.
That's amazing. And for anyone listening that's a service provider and you're like, what the hell is a funnel? That's what I use to put gas or something in my car. It is basically when you have someone that contacts you to book you, how do you follow up with them? How do you get them from contact to paying client? That's essentially what your funnel is. What is the process that you go through in order to make that happen? Because that's something that a lot of service providers don't consider, especially creatives. Think of like the cake bakers and the florists and people like that went into business because they love the creative side. They don't really consider the other things behind the scenes that might go into creating something to turn those leads into clients.
Absolutely. Exactly. It's just really, it's like, how do you get people who don't know about you at all to actually give you money? Like, what is the process between point A and point money? So what does that look like? And it is, and there's so much jargon around it. And so thank you for that, because it's actually super simple and straightforward, and it doesn't need to be as crazy complicated as it is sometimes talked about online, especially for a service business, because that's what I am too. I don't have any online programs at all because I love that one-on-one, that social work part of me still loves the one-on-one interaction with all of our clients. And and that's all it is too. It's like, how do we turn people into customers? And since we need so much less often from a service provider, because our prices are higher than digital courses, you don't need nearly the volume that a digital course creator would need to kind of make not even make ends meet, but like create a really crazy successful business.
Definitely. And one thing that it's so funny when I teach email marketing, a lot of people are like, wait, you have a set of emails that go to every lead. I'm like, yeah, you don't. Like, it's just part of the process. And it's something that you need to look at, especially if you have people that contact you and ghost you constantly. You need to figure that out.
Because yeah, not everyone is in the same place when they contact you. Like some people will have leads that are like, can we get on a call? I need to hire you, right? You get those leads, right? Where they're like, they know it's you already.
Yep.
And then you get the leads that are like, I'm just checking things out. And so those are two very different people. And those email sequences can do the job of creating the person who's just kind of tire kicking and looking around and turning them into your perfect person who by the time they get on the phone already knows they want to hire you. Those are my favorite conversations because they make sales so much easier. Because that email person's doing I always call it the best Rita because I've had all the time to think about all the things. It's like your first date personality, right? I'm like, that's who's in the emails. Yeah. She'll answer all your questions. And then they're good when they get onto the actual phone call with you.
Yep. And someone asked me once, well, you don't write every single email? I'm like, yeah, I do. It's just that I then automate them.
Right. And honestly, I don't even write all of mine.
Nice. So, do you have a copywriter?
Sneaky. Yes, we have copywriters fabulous. On the team for the ads. And so I do get one of my copywriters that's on the team to write email sequences for me.
That's amazing.
She honestly does a better job sounding like me than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because I write really stiff sometimes when I'm writing emails and it's all very formal. And she always laughs at me and she's like, you're the least formal person I know. Why does it feel like a funeral director wrote this email?
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, sorry, I'm in two in my head. So yeah, so you can outsource that stuff too, because sometimes you're so busy, it's really hard to get stuff done.
Well, we always think that no one can do it better than us. And most of the time, that's so not the case.
That is so not true. Yes, my email sequence is testament to that. Absolutely.
What if you didn't have to worry about writing emails to your list for the next 6 months and maybe even a year? Yes, it's true. It's finally here. My students have been asking me for this for years, and I have heard you, and these templates are finally available. Engaging Emails Done is a quick workshop and template bundle to help you harness the power of email marketing to grow your business. You can set it and forget it and actually book more clients. If you're like, Brooke, I am so in, where do I grab these? Head on over to businessstraightedup.com/emailsdone to grab this special limited bundle. If you want to hear a little more, I feel you. I like details too. These templates are designed to be done for you to set up several months of emails in just an hour. Plus, I've recorded several how-to videos to walk you through the technical steps for several different email service providers if you're not sure how to customize and schedule them. Engaging Emails Done has not only a quickie email marketing 101 how-to if you're starting from scratch, but it includes a minimum of 12 email templates that you can schedule ahead of time to take something off of that never-ending to-do list so you can focus on what you love most. Side note, I did say a minimum of 12 because I keep thinking of things to add, so you might even get more than 12. These are brand new. I've never offered something like this before, so grab your email templates plus Email Marketing 101 plus tech tutorials before the price goes up. Grab these templates, tutorials, and help all at businessstraightedup.com/emailsdone. Again, that's businessstraightedup.com/emailsdone. So one of the things that you have shared is that you're committed to helping other women use the metrics to feel more confident that they can create financial freedom for themselves. And when I read that, I was like, amen. I know what the analytics do for me in my own business. Actually being able to see what I'm doing is working. Can you share some of the ways that analytics have helped your own confidence or confidence for your clients?
Oh, for sure. This is like one of my favorite things because oftentimes we'll have clients that were like potential clients who come in and they start a conversation and they're like, spreadsheets make me want to throw up. Oh, I'm just letting you know, right? Right out of the gate. I know. I'm like, oh, the spreadsheets are my love language. And
especially with formulas that figure it out for you. And I know. I love it.
I'm like, auto formulas. It's just the most, I've actually taken a spreadsheeting course on a number of occasions and like app scripts. Okay, we can go down a rabbit hole, but yes, there's some beautiful things that spreadsheets can do. And I love them so much, but a lot of my clients just don't. Like some of them are kind of like, I say like data curious, but we've definitely had a few that have come in and like, I hate this so much. Even like when I do my books with my bookkeeper, everything that has numbers in it feels like a judgment of me as a business owner. Right?
Oh, yes.
And And I had never anticipated that because as someone who's always enjoyed numbers, and I like just how neutral numbers are, that's how I think about them because there's no emotional charge in them for me, especially when it's someone else's business.
Yes.
Right. And they're like, oh no, it's like they're staring at me, mocking me. Right. I'm like, okay, well, we need an person in here to sort this out. And what we can end up doing when we measure like all of those phases, right? So essentially when we're looking at a big marketing funnel, big picture, there's how people find you, how people nurture you, because email sequences fit in there, and then the sales process. So we got those three big chunks essentially for ease of discussion. And when we measure those three big chunks, we see how they all relate together. So we can see if you have X amount of leads, you should get X amount of phone calls, for sales calls, or if you're selling a digital product, X amount of sales. And the frightening thing is when we measure that all out, if nothing actually changes and like the marketing stays very similar, those conversion rates at all those points, like how many people buy and how many people sign up for sales calls, actually stays really, really similar over time.
Oh, wow.
It still freaks me out. Like a decade into this, I'm like, oh, look, you converted 8% and you still converted 8% 6 months later. It just like once, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say for any of my service people out there like myself, converting means that you have actually booked that client.
Yes.
Has talked
exactly.
to you. Let's say you have 100 people contact you and you book 5 of them. That would be 5% conversion rate.
Exactly. And then you get kind of that feel where you go, okay, every time I have 100 calls seems like a lot, but every time I have 5 calls, maybe then I sign one person, you know that to hit a goal of maybe signing 5 new clients that month, you then need X amount of phone calls each month.
Yes.
So it becomes this way of reverse engineering what it is that you want your sales goals to be. Because one of the real disconnect that I had personally when I first started in business, and clients still do now, is when they're like, I have this goal, right? Whether it's booking 5 clients this month or if it's a revenue amount. And there's a disconnect between that goal and like the actual boots on the ground doing the things, right?
Yes.
Like, what do I actually have to do to get that other than randomly post on social every day or like, put up a blog or do this? Like they're missing the strategy and the tactics connecting to the goal. And what we do with metrics is we create that strategy and the tactics of saying, okay, you need to book X amount of phone calls every month. So how do we do that? That means you need X amount of traffic, because whatever traffic quantity, we see that a certain amount of people book, and those percentages, as I mentioned, often stay very similar over time. And if they're poor, right, like don't hit where we would expect them to, that's a flag that there's something wrong in that process. Like maybe you need a different, like there might be problems with your form for sign up. Maybe, you're not educating your customer enough to get them from a tire kicker to someone who wants to make a phone call. And there's a number of different things that we can find when we do all that measurement that illuminates areas that could get improved so that, right, like, so you don't need as much traffic, you don't need as many leads because everything's just a lot more efficient.
Yes. It makes everything very, very clear, which can be good and bad.
Yes, exactly. Because sometimes it's like, ooch, I thought this was all doing a whole lot better, right?
Right.
And then for other people, like for especially the one client with the spreadsheets who are going to make her sick, now, like it's to the point, and she's still with us now, we do ads and things, it blows her mind. She's like, okay, I want to make X amount of dollars with my next launch of a product that she has. We're like, okay, well, now we know how many leads we need. We know, like, we could just back out of it and then create a plan to make that happen. Yes. So it's not a pie in the sky kind of idea. It's actually, this is the plan. And then when we're finished that particular product launch, we go back, right, and contrast, like, did this work the way we thought it was going to work? Why not? Because we have all those numbers and we know when something kind of didn't work as well as we thought it would. So we can then go and adjust it.
Yes. And these metrics are crazy important to look at. Like, we kind of started this discussion with Facebook ads, but this applies to anything. We can talk about if you are at an expo and you know that you're going to talk to this many people, well, how many people do you actually book from that expo? To look at your actual return on investment, whether it's an investment of time or money, is something that will absolutely drive your business and make business easier for you too.
Oh, so much. Like the amount of times that I can think that I did something that worked so well to book clients, and then I just stopped doing it. And then I forgot that I did it at all. And then like a year goes by and you're like, okay, I kind of need some clients. What am I going to do? I'm like, oh, right. Remember that thing? Why did I stop doing that in the first place? We just forget. And when we track the metrics, and I'm not talking like obsessively, right? Like that's not necessary, especially for service providers. Like we have it super easy with the metrics. It's just like once a month we do this, like we track how many, discovery calls, how many inquiries, how many times they get on the phone, how many people did we close, like just some really basic numbers those over time. And if you have like an actual live event, right, where you're going and networking or showcasing your skills, just recording, like, how many calls did I have after that? How many people did I sign? Because you might notice too that certain events or certain strategies, you actually sign a whole lot more. Like you have 5 calls and you sign 4 because they're very qualified people that are there. So that's kind of mental note, right? And to make sure to keep doing those ones, because you will notice a different flavor of kind of that client that's at those types of events too.
Oh my gosh, hardcore. And it's so funny. I do, as a boudoir photographer, I do not do weddings, but I do bridal shows a lot. And the reason is because I will book moms and sisters from bridal shows all day long. I don't care about the brides.
Yeah, you're like, everyone else can have you.
Right? Yeah. Because they're worried about other things right now. But when it comes to the other people, I can actually track that using those metrics and knowing where I met these people, how long did they follow me before they actually booked? And these things are so important. It helps me to not only book my clients on my photography business, but to teach people what they can do to better their own business.
Exactly. And it's something that we always think we'll remember too, like that. I know I've been guilty of telling myself that too, but we really don't. Like there's so much going on and it's really nice, especially if it's like an event, like if you have like if there's like a wedding expo or something and it's just like once a year, it's really easy to forget kind of what happened last year. And also like if you come back and you just write down some really basic stats about it, then you can also look and say, is there anything about the way this went that I want to improve on, or I want to try something different this year and then test it against last year. Just like some really basic stuff that it's amazing how quickly you can learn and adapt when you actually are kind of asking those questions, as opposed to just accepting it as this is just the way it is and I'll go next year. And just some basic inquiry can go a really long way to improving those things.
Absolutely. So website analytics is kind of where you started, and then you realized that there were so much more to these analytics in other areas of business. So we're going to kind of pivot into social advertising, kind of like you did. And I know the power of Facebook ads and other social ads, but personally, I get overwhelmed. I just recently did some Facebook ads and I was asking one of my friends who's good at it. I'm like, I am so lost. I think I've purchased like 6 courses on Facebook ads and I'm still overwhelmed. Can you
That might
share?
be it.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny. One of my favorites was like this little tiny mini course. It was like a half-hour long. And that's where I learned the most instead of these like 6-week courses because it's so
totally
overwhelming.
Agree. It is. It's like if there's like a minimum viable, like how do I get Facebook ads up in a weekend? Like that's the course you want. You do not want all the things you need to know about Facebook ads,
right?
Because especially for service providers, it's just, you're going to drown, right? It's just so much. Well, like anyone would drown because they're trying to cover absolutely everything where the minimum viable Facebook ads is really what you want.
I feel like Facebook ad teachers need to have like their full course. This is 6 weeks, all this, and then one video that's like, get your ads going in 3 hours.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's do that. We'll start there and then we'll go down the rabbit hole. Can you share with our listeners why these ads matter and why they might want to start paying attention to these metrics and dipping their toes into Facebook ads and social ads?
Well, the thing that Facebook ads, and kind of like I alluded to before, it makes things a little bit easier, right? Like if you can figure out, right? Because obviously there is definitely a learning curve there, but when you invest a little bit of time and figure out kind of how to make them work on a very small scale, it really allows for that steady stream of clients to come into the business, potentially, right? Leads definitely, but it also ups the volume of the amount of people that are coming in. So if you are in that testing phase where you're like, I don't know what is the best way to turn somebody into a client or to get someone onto a discovery call or have a consult or things like that, by having Facebook bringing you leads, you can start to test what are more effective a whole lot more than just kind of waiting forever for things to come in, right?
Yes.
And the biggest piece, like I always say there's like 4 chunks to being ready for Facebook ads and really thinking about Facebook ads for someone who hasn't kind of ventured down that road. Because you need to have your product. So if we'll do photography because that one's easy. I know a little bit about that. And so if your product being photography, so if you are a wedding photographer, that's the product. Mm-hmm. And then you have an offer, right? And so that's, even though it's kind of like the product because it's about it, the offer is more where your niching and your positioning comes in. And like, do you do eco weddings or do you do high-end luxury weddings at amazing, destinations? And what is the price of that? What are all the different kind of offer bits? So those are the 2 kind of chunks of it. And then we're looking for audiences. And so in Facebook world, right? That means email lists, people that have been to your website, things like that. But if you haven't ever run a Facebook ad before and you're trying to think of audiences and kind of getting ready for Facebook ads, think like, who do I have? Like, what have I created as far as awareness and people that know about me online? If you don't have anybody, like you like fresh starting, that's okay too. Facebook does allow for targeting of, people who recently got engaged. Photographers have some of the best targeting available out of all Facebook ads, like people that have had brand new babies. I think every single age range of children is represented. So if you do newborn photography, families, toddlers, grads, all that kind of stuff, it's all in there. Like people that have engaged for a really long time, friends of people who have recently got engaged. Like if you want to give gift certificates, like it's kind of mind blowing.
Wow.
You don't have those audiences already, but if you do have even a small email list, if you have traffic that comes to your website, like if you have good SEO for this particular photography business and people naturally come, you can serve ads to them on Facebook, even though that's not originally how they found you, right? Like they just landed on your site. So it's thinking about like, who can I advertise to? Do I need to start fresh and advertise to brand new people? Or do I have some existing people that are already in my world from social, SEO, all of those kinds of traffic sources that I can use Facebook ads to get in front of again and maybe make some of those offers, about my product, different specials and things. And then outside of that, it's having the actual marketing funnel in place. Like before people start running Facebook ads, especially for a service, I always recommend having something in place, right, where people can actually book a call, right? If that's the end goal that you have is to get people on the phone, you need to have some mechanism to make that really easy for them.
Yes.
So you don't want to just be getting people onto an email list and then doing nothing with them because it's not a really good use of the money, but making sure that there is a process that you've outlined in your head that you know what people are supposed to do so that you can build the marketing to make that happen.
Yes. And I just want to tell anyone listening that's like, oh, hell no, this is far too difficult. Even if you're not ready right now, someone told me this years ago, and I'm so grateful for her telling me this. Even if you're not ready right now and you're like, I'm not going to do this for a while, I'm busy, I don't need to add more, I want to encourage you to get that pixel on your website. Because I put my pixel on my website like 5 years ago and I'd never touched Facebook ads, but now I have so much data. And what that does is it essentially tells Facebook that these people have visited your website, so we can now target them with advertising. So even if you're not ready right now, get the pixel. Please get that pixel on your website.
And even if you have to there's pretty good instructions on how to get just the base pixel up.
Yes.
But even if you have to just Upwork it for $5 or something, right? I'm sure Fiverr, you could get somebody to put the pixel up just to get it on there. Exactly. Because it's just quietly tracking in the background.
Yep.
And for the one day when you're like, I am ready to tackle this monster, then there it is. And the Facebook pixel can track from your website 180 days back. And that's a long time. Yes. So it can also do much longer in actual on Facebook. Like if someone engages with your Facebook page, you get up to a year, but you don't need the pixel for that. But on the website, you get a lot of data. And because Facebook uses that pixel to help create better audiences, it's kind of like a more advanced topic, but that's really why you want it, because it gathers data, it sees who your people are.
Yes.
And that is data that Facebook can use to help you later on.
And it will also, and this is one thing that blew me away when I started learning, is it will see who your people are and then look for their friends too. Kind of creepy, but true.
It's all very creepy. And if you get creeped out easily, it still creeps me out. And I'm probably more aware than most of what the tracking is that's involved in this.
Yes.
And it is. So that's true. That's something some people aren't comfortable with, but trust me, if you post online anywhere, everyone's tracking everything.
Yeah. It's so funny to me when people keep saying, well, Facebook is a free platform. I'm like, no, actually they're making billions off of our personal information. So you have to be very aware of what you put online.
Exactly. And it's not an accident that I have a personal profile because I run Facebook ads and I do not actually post personal information on Facebook at all. And everyone finds it because, friends will try to get you to help them out. They're like, oh, I'm starting a business Facebook page. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And they just they're like, what do you mean? I'm I'm never on it. I don't actually see Facebook the way that most people see Facebook.
Yeah. I'm
in Ads Manager and I'm in Business Manager all the time. So I'm like, I don't actually look at that interface very often.
Yeah.
I don't even have it on my phone. It's almost, I think because I know too much that, it's not something I'm involved in, but I have to have a profile to be able to advertise. So that's why I have one.
Yeah, it's crazy powerful. I actually have an IT security background. So I could go down this rabbit hole for days, but that is why my clients will show up for their sessions and tell me, I've never seen your kids. Like, you talk about them, but I don't know what they look like. I don't know who they are. And so I'll show my clients pictures while they're in the studio, but I don't put pictures of my kids on Facebook for that reason.
Nope. Exactly. We're the same thing where my mother will, I'm like, Mom, I will share with you other ways because there's other people in the family, right, who share all their kids' photos and all these milestones and things. And she just knows that that's just not the way that we get pictures around in our family. Yeah. Yep. And she's just gotten used to it. It still annoys her, but she's gotten used to it.
Well, and to each their own, some people share everything and that's cool too. It's just not what I want to do. So I have no judgment for anyone either way. It's just what we have chosen to do with our kids. And
exactly.
Everyone's a little different. You probably hear or read all the time on podcasts and courses, various communities, that you need to do certain things or have specific processes in place to help with your business. Whether it's lead follow-up, email templates, or workflow, all of this can be so overwhelming, right? Especially when you don't know where to start. I have spent 15 years creating processes that are repeatable for my own business. And last year, I finally launched my online shop where my email templates, workflows, and questionnaires are all available for purchase. And just for my amazing podcast listeners, I have a special code available for you for 10% off of any product on the shop. Just head over to shopwithbrooke.com. Don't forget the E on the end of my name and use the code BSU podcast, like Business Straight Up Podcast, to get 10% off of any product, anything on the shop. Don't let overwhelm or all of the shoulds take precious hours of your time that you could spend with your family or doing what you really love. Check out the templates and pre-done systems that you can copy and paste and implement at shopwithbrooke.com to start rocking your marketing and your business today. For someone that has never touched Facebook ads, what would be a great first step that won't be super overwhelming? Other than the Pixel, we already talked about that one, but we'll start them on the path of understanding what the heck they're doing in Facebook or other social ads.
So the first place that I always recommend anyone start is to do kind of a really low budget retargeting ad. And so what a retargeting ad means is that if somebody has either, interacted with your Facebook page or your Instagram profile, because that's where you access all of that stuff as well. All the Instagram stuff goes through Facebook. And, whether they've been on your website and if you have an email list, kind of a little bit more advanced, then you can use that as well. But putting up an ad, right, that really just shows people kind of an offer, or if you do have some kind of lead magnet that I don't know how, is your audience well versed in the lead magnet world or slightly maybe?
I try. Not really. So email marketing and lead magnets is something that I teach, and so many photographers, and I've worked with chocolatiers. I've worked with so many creatives that don't really think that they need that. And once they start to understand what that really is, then they start to grow, but they're a little new to that.
Okay, so I'll use an example. So say if you're a photographer, and like with a boudoir photographer, you could have a lead magnet of, 5 poses that you could use, on shoot day, or 5 poses that make you look great in photography. Yes. Something like that you could offer somebody in exchange for their email. Yep. And, it's something that's just really easy but people also get like a real benefit from right away, are often the ones, it makes them better customers, right? Because they're like, oh, look, if I can look this amazing with this information, how amazing am I going to look when she's actually directing me in person, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just those connections and things. So doing something like having a lead magnet or putting up an offer ad to people that are already aware of you and have already kind of been in your sphere of influence online, just to let them know, like, hey, first of all, like, don't forget, I'm still here. I have things that are for sale. Yes. But also if they're not ready for sale, then you could have something like a lead magnet, or if you do create any kind of content like blogs or podcasts or things, you can also just show those people that are already aware of you your content so that you stay in front of them on top of mind, so that when they are ready for photography services, you're the only person they could think of anyway.
Top of mind marketing is something that so many people do not pay attention to, and it is crazy, crazy, crazy important.
It is, and it's so cheap on Facebook, like out of all of the types of advertising, because so often people are like, oh, I'm going to go for those, like the 2-year-olds, right? Or the newborn chunk, and go for completely brand new, huge cold audiences who have never heard of you before. That's what kind of the cold audience means. And they're the most expensive audiences because they don't know you. So there's no like and trust. None of that exists. And when people already know you and you just work on staying top of mind, you can be spending a few dollars a day just to get your content and your thoughts and your images in front of people who already know you. So much more likely to kind of take that next step and book a call or a session.
It's so true. And this is especially true for people that do not have a deadline for whatever your service is. For instance, like wedding photographers, there is a set date. They have a date that they need to have this service by. But when it comes to portrait photography, maybe families or kids, or even like chocolate gifts, anything like that, that creative business owners love to do, when they don't have a deadline, they're going to put it off as long as humanly possible. And if they can have some sort of reminder that you are the person to go to for this, when it's time, they will come to you. And the bonus to that is that even if it's not time for them, when their friends ask them, you will be the first name that comes to mind.
Oh, completely. Like even just thinking with the cakes, right? Like people don't even understand all the reasons or occasions that you could celebrate something with a cake.
Right.
And if you're creating these and taking pictures and going, oh, there's all the different celebrations and like random days of the year, right? that you can make cakes for, just being able to introduce sometimes ideas into your potential customers' heads. Like, oh, what a great thing to celebrate. I never actually thought to do that. And what a thoughtful idea, or I've never thought to do that kind of photography, and like when the virus came out, how a lot of photographers transitioned to like that front porch type project where they were staying really far away and taking pictures. People, if there wasn't, the first time I actually saw that on Facebook was an advertisement. Right.
Really?
So it was so neat where I was like, oh, that's so cool. I would have never thought that that was even a service.
Wow.
But there it was, right? And so it's things like that, that just being able to get in front of people and just make them aware of what you do is just, it's so valuable. And it really doesn't have to be nearly as expensive with those smaller retargeting audiences. And even with our big budget clients that have a ton to spend, who have a very well-developed business system at this point, we still often start with retargeting for them because they don't have really good retargeting in place. So no matter whether you're big, you're little, you're just starting out, it's always the place that we start because you usually see the best return on your investment there.
Kind of funny story. I have a friend who runs a cake business, and she just posted a picture on social the other day. And I was totally thinking, as you're saying this, that she should make an ad out of this. She just posted a picture on Instagram of all the coronavirus cakes that she's been making.
Oh my, see, exactly.
Literally the ball, like what the virus looks like. It's a ball of a cake with like the red dots and everything. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. She has a whole stack of them because people have been asking for them so much.
Oh, you have to be careful with coronavirus advertising, but yes, like that exact thing. 'Cause if you put COVID in your actual ad copy, it's very likely your ad account gets shut down. So you do have to be really careful. But yes, exactly like that though, because otherwise no one would ever even think, right? It would be
it never crossed my mind. And I do cakes for anything.
Exactly. There's lots of things we need to celebrate right now because everybody's really sick and tired of being sick and tired. But exactly.
So if you could give someone 3 amazing tips when it comes to Facebook or social ads, what would they be?
Oh, goodness. I guess I kind of maybe went over most of them there, but I'll kind of succinctly always start with retargeting. That one for sure. Make sure that you have, I will say, I refer to it as a business that works, but it's more making sure that you have that pathway. Like, what your goal is that you have for the advertising. Make sure that you actually have steps that people can take, once they get onto your site from the ad, because the ad is really such a small piece of it, right? It's just the beginning. You have to have a plan for what's going to happen when they get onto your site. And what you want them to do, you need to tell them what you want them to do. If you want them to book a call or download something, be explicit. And if you feel like you're like dumbing everything down, that's exactly correctly where you should be, right? Like, don't make this complicated. We're all in a hurry. And we explicitly say like, click here now. And seems so obnoxious, but when we remove that less people do it, right? It's just kind of the way it is.
Isn't that funny? I teach about calls to action. Like I just did my website course or my website class. So many people say, well, I don't want them to feel like I'm telling them what to do. I'm like, no, you need to.
We want you to tell us what to do.
Yes.
There's nothing more frustrating than get to a site and you're like, I would love to give this person money, but I literally have no idea how I can do that right now.
Right.
And then we just go away and somebody else comes up and they're very clear about how it is that we make that transaction and they get our money. Absolutely. Yeah.
Those calls to action are crazy important.
Exactly. So, I have the one more. I'll pop that one in before I forget. And the other one is to it's kind of dovetailing. And the other one is literally to have a goal before you start. It's really what is the point of this? Do I want to close sales? Do I want to nurture people? Just have an idea of what it is that you're trying to do rather than I'm just going to go make a Facebook ad, because without a goal, it's really hard to know whether it's successful, whether you should spend more, spend less, etc. if you don't really have a goal in mind before you begin.
I agree completely, but I want to expand on that a little more because I feel like so many service providers will just say, well, my goal is to book more clients. Well, cool. What does that look like? Can you expand on what the goal would look like, the actual tangible, concrete goal that we can measure?
Yes, because measuring is important.
Yes.
What is the actual number? And it can be 1 or 2 or whatever, and some people's goal is I just want to get actually sign somebody, just one, because then I will know that at least that funnel that I put in place, right? Those steps that people take after they get to the ad is working, right?
Yes.
They're just looking for that kind of the evidence that everything is going well. And if it's not, then they know that there's certain things along that path that need to get adjusted.
Yes, definitely. I think that I know some goals that I've used in my own business were to first grow my email list, which a lot of service providers, I keep working with them. They're not quite there yet, but that's so important because the reality is that while social is an amazing tool, it's not something that you can control. And I've had so many friends lately where their Facebook accounts are just shut down.
Exactly.
Out of the blue, just shut down. And if that were to happen to you, how do you follow up on that? So a goal could be to grow your email list. Another goal could be maybe to book so many clients in a specific month. There are definite tangible goals that you can put into place before you even start with this process.
Absolutely. Because Facebook ads really is that supplemental piece to, I already have the plan. And I already know how I'm marketing and what I'm doing, even if it's just really, really basic, because it won't fix something. Facebook ads can't fix something that isn't working.
Yes.
I mean, it'll show you really quickly because it'll take all your money, right? But when it is working and you add Facebook ads to it, it can make everything easier just because you've got kind of that autopilot of people coming into the email list and kind of nurturing. So it does take some of that weight off, but there is upfront work that is required before kind of pressing play on Facebook ads.
Yes. And we have seen so many things change lately with world events. And before someone presses play, what are some things that they should consider? What are some things that have changed in the ad space with not only the pandemic, but other social unrest that's happening? What are some things that people can look at when it comes to social ads based on where we're at right now? And just for anyone listening, in case you're listening in a year, we're recording this on June 19th, 2020, right in the middle of everything.
Yes, exactly. We are all in it. And it's been a really interesting year because there's never been there is no virus playbook for running Facebook ads, right? Someone should but hopefully we will never do this again, right?
Right.
No one will want the book, but it will be very valuable.
That's the hope. That's the fingers.
And we had launches going on. We had the only launches clients were doing in a year. They kind of have a big annual, huge launch cycle that they do. And we had a bunch of clients that were launching right at the end of March.
Oh no.
And you go, what is going to happen? Because it was just, let's just go, right?
Yes.
And figure it out as we go. And so with anything that's happening, because when you think about social advertising in general, as opposed to Google ads or just any kind of organic traffic or organic marketing that you're doing, is that when you're on a social platform, just think of what's going on when you're looking at Facebook ads, right? Or you're looking at Facebook and you're scrolling through your newsfeed and you've got, cousins, newborn babies, and you've got, your friend down the road's political opinion about things, and you've got the school your kids go to have an average, or telling you what's happening, at the fundraiser next week. It's a very busy and kind of interesting environment that you can't control what's around your ads. And so one of the things that's really been important this year, especially more so than any other year that I have run ads, is that we need to be conscious of what is going on in the world, because that is what's reflected in, especially in Facebook and Instagram feeds. So if your ads really appear tone deaf to what's going on, because like say you set them up in January, and then now we have a launch or not set them up, but like wrote them and designed them in January. And now we're having this launch in March, and there's like catastrophic pandemic sweeping the world, and you just roll out those January ads. People are going to be a little upset with you depending on like what the social situation is that's happening. Like we've rewrote every single piece of launch content for all the launches that were happening in March because we had to. Like there was just no choice. Like it needed to not like wallow in it, but it needed to acknowledge that this was just a very unusual time and we didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, it was like all hands on deck to make that happen. So that's just something to be aware of with any kind of not only paid social, but just any kind of marketing, right? You just need to be aware that what you're putting out, especially when it's pre-planned, that, you know, that it actually is speaking somewhat to what's going on, so that when people read it amongst the, right, all of the different stuff in their news feed, it doesn't feel like you're totally ignoring something that's really super important that's going on around you. And you don't like have to make the whole ad about that, but just making sure that like we had some lines of just like the world's really uncertain right now, like literally that's it for some things, but you just need to be aware of the context of where you're putting your ads and just be a pleasant human, right? Like just be aware of what's going on and just be. Sometimes the ads need to get turned off. Like with a lot of the social unrest that's been happening in the US and around the world, there was a number of like week-long periods that we've had ads shut off for people, depending on what their social situation is and what their background is, because it was the right thing to do. Right? Like there's just certain things that, you just have to take into account when you're doing any kind of marketing, and paid social is no different.
That's really interesting. I've actually, when I was trying to do Facebook ads last week and trying to figure this out, I would go to some of the pages that I follow, because for anyone that doesn't know, you can actually see the ads that any page is currently running under page transparency on Facebook. And it fascinates me to see the different pictures that they put with different text. And I really like to look at that and see how they build it, because I know that these people have professionals that do it, whereas I am not a professional Facebook ads person. But so many of them had the ads completely turned off. And I thought that was really speaking to what was going on in the world and not trying to drown out other things while still being true to themselves and their mission. It was really interesting to watch.
It was really nice to see that kind of everyone, there was just universally, like, at least with all of my clients who are not people of color, there was a few people that ads were still running because of that and that didn't change. But for people that weren't, and that it just wasn't appropriate because there needed to be other voices that were being heard at that time, like it's just really important to make sure that everybody's just being really aware. And part of, you know, running ads for other people is that some of my clients like aren't really aware, right, of what kind of, because they don't actually do their own social, right?
That would be hard.
Because they have other people do that. And it's making sure that they know that they need a heads up when stuff like that happens or changes happen on the platform so they can adjust accordingly.
Definitely. If there is someone listening that is totally on board and they're like, Rita, you have sold me, I want to do Facebook ads, and they're all in, but they don't want to touch it themselves because I scared them. I'm just kidding. I didn't scare you. But what are some things that they can ask someone before hiring them to handle this for them so that they can outsource this?
So one of the biggest things that I always recommend to people is to get case studies, because if somebody has been doing this and has a track record, it's really easy to talk a good game with it, but actual results are really important. And anyone who's been doing this for any period of time, you know, depending on kind of what your level of investment is, if you're really comfortable with someone who's just started and learning and you're happy paying less while they're learning on your account, that's totally valid too. You know, like that's how I started, was like with lower value accounts. And yes, that's a totally viable option too, as long as they're really open about that. And it's kind of like that more of a partnership relationship, like we're going to figure this out together. Yes. I've seen that work really, really well too. But making sure that like, if you're thinking about spending a little bit more or really being quite hands off with it, sort of, I never suggest being totally hands off with it, is just making sure, that somebody can talk about the results that they get for businesses like yours. Like, for example, I don't run ads for service-based businesses. Mine are all membership course creators, digital products. So I wouldn't be the person, right, for a service provider, because it's a different thing, because it's it's just not my specialty. I totally could, but it's not my zone of genius, right? And that's not, I wouldn't say yes to that. So you could look specifically, is there someone who runs Facebook ads for photographers or for creative businesses? If you're a local business, it's the same as all of the different kind of service-based businesses in the world. Facebook ads managers and agencies niche too, right? So it's like, I'm female business owners who have digital courses, it's like super niched.
Yes.
But the advertisers and the agencies or the freelancers who really specialize, they know those audiences that work best. Like it's just so, because they're in your space, right? Like they see what's working for photographers or for different things like that. They're just often a lot more, you can just get better results because they really, really know their stuff for your specific business. So the niching piece, a lot of the just what are the results they've had? How long have they been doing it? And those are kind of the big things, and really liking the person, and especially around communication.
Yes.
And it's the social work in me. It's terrible, but I think it's so like, you're going to talk to this person, hopefully more than most people in your business. Like most of my clients I am talking to, like but like conversing with either verbally or through Slack or through whatever, multiple times a week. Like we have lots of conversations. It's like, how are ads doing? We're giving updates. We're like overly communicating.
Yeah.
And so if somebody like kind of gives you a weird feeling and I don't know that I want to talk to this person that much, then they might not be a good fit. And that's the other piece that I've heard from a lot of clients over the years is the communication piece, is like seeing and asking those service providers before you hire them, like, how do you communicate results? How do you communicate with me? Because everything ranges from like agencies like myself, where we are literally, they probably like don't want to hear from us anymore. They're like, stop communicating with me, all the way to like, you'll only hear from somebody once a month, right? Like every flavor in between. So depending on how you like to communicate and how you like information transferred in your business, really understanding what the service looks like and what the deliverables are around, like, do they write copy for you? Do they create images? Like there's so much variation from agency to agency. Like some people are shocked. They're like, you write copy? I'm like, how could I not write copy? Right? But there's lots of agencies or freelancers that will get you to provide that. So a lot of questions like, what's included? What does this price all entail? How is the communication going to happen? And then all those other bits. So there's a lot of questions, but do your due diligence and you'll end up with a really, really great provider that can help you out.
That's amazing. I love that information. I think that one thing that I've seen some photographers come across is that agencies are typically used to using stock photography. And when you are advertising for photography services, that is kind of seen as a big no-no. So
I would say almost for everyone, but
finding someone that knows that, right? And that specializes and understands that. I think those are really, really great questions to ask. Thank you so much for being here today, Rita. Your expertise is so valuable. I wrote down a ton of notes on my own. I'm sure everyone else is too, to start looking at social ads a little more carefully. I know that for me, like I want to run some they kind of just go in the background that I don't have to think about as much, because when I have them going, I feel like I'm looking at them constantly and I don't want to have to do that. So I'll be learning. I'm learning. And for anyone listening, I want to know what your biggest takeaways are. Let's compare notes. I want you to post a photo or a screenshot while listening to this episode. Tag me on social at Business Straight Up, and that's on Instagram or on the Facebooks. I don't know why I just made that multiple, but whatever.
There's two.
That's right. And let me know your biggest aha from this episode. What did you take away? What were you like, oh my gosh, yes. And if you haven't gone over to iTunes yet to leave a review, what are you waiting for? Head on over to iTunes. If you want a direct link, check out the show notes at businessstraightup.com/podcast. Take a screenshot of the review before submitting it, and I will send you a freebie, or my team, one of us will send you a freebie. Send the screenshot over to hello@businessstraightup.com, and we will send over something fun. Thank you so much for pressing play today. And Rita, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great fun.
As always, keep moving forward, taking steps toward your goals so you can design your life on your terms, because that's the end goal for all of us, right? Have an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk soon. Thank you so much for listening to Business Straight Up. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Check out the show notes for this and all of the episodes at businessstraightuppodcast.com. And I can't wait to talk with you again. Have a great day.